Hi there! This is how do you set up the turntable on a Technics SLD2 turntable. How do you set up the Tonearm? Say you get a new cartridge. This is a good turntable. It's pretty user friendly as far as these adjustments go. This is important to know these things as time goes on. If you collect vinyl, this is things you want to know about why these adjustments need to be set up in accordance with your particular cartridge that you put on it. So you can put any cartridge on this turntable, doesn't matter. The head shell's removable. You can unscrew this piece right here, this little collar, and it comes right off, and you can work with it away from the Tonearm at any angle, and in order to actually, if you take on mounting the cartridge yourself on a head shell for one of these. This is not the actual Technics head shell off of this table, but I happen to have that here. It has another cartridge on it, but I'm just using this one for demonstration. It's a little easier, but whatever cartridge it is that you get or want on there, if you undertake mounting that yourself, normally you're just looking at a couple of small nuts and screws that will really probably make you want to start cussing, because they're hard to kind of get started because they're so small. But you might get a little screwdriver with the new usually you will with the new cartridge, and sometimes they'll even give you a new head shell leads, these little wires. So yeah, basically you have the mounting hardware, which is the nuts and the screws, and you got a little slot. This is a standard 1/2-inch Tonearm head shell mount. 1/2 inch is usually what all cartridges are, standard. I mean, so the clue is to get that on there. My rule is for the right overhang and stuff, get the stylus to line up right about at the edge of the head shell for this turntable. I've found that is, I haven't had any issues if I use that rule. And if you get them down snug, but where you can still move this around a little bit, you might have to reposition it a little, and then I use a 2-point cartridge alignment protractor, and you use those 2 little spots to on this turntable too. If you go on the speed selector switch, there's a little dot in the middle, because when you move the Tonearm, it powers the turntable on. If you put it on that little dot in the center of the 33 and the 45 switch, it won't power the motor. So you can do something like this without the platter moving. You can just move it manually. And there's lines, and you want that stylus to line up parallel with that spot, with them lines on both spots. On this one, I found that if you're on pretty close on one, you're actually pretty close on the other one, but you want to try to line it up straight on both of them as close as possible. And then you can tighten everything down snug and double check it. If it's still there, you know, that's what you want. If you got it there and you got it to where it won't move, it's aligned. As far as your leads, that has to do with your right and left channels. That's what's coming out of this. So there's always a diagram when you get a new cartridge. It tells you for what pins are what on these. As far as your right and left channel is a right hot and a left hot and a right ground and a left ground. red is always right hot, white is always left hot, green is always right ground, and blue is always left ground. You want those all to be correct. So as long as you've got that all hooked up right, and you know, you might need some little skinny needle nose type pliers or something. These work pretty good. Even if they're even smaller, it's better. Anyway, besides that, like I said, that is very tedious, pain in the ass. But if you get there, you got that part of it down, you can screw that back on, and now you can set your stuff up. When you screw that on, you don't have to torque it down hard, just snug. And then your next step is going to be balance out your tone arm. This is going to be, if I move this counterclockwise from the back, if you're facing the back, you're turning it counterclockwise, you're going to move it this way. If you turn it clockwise from the back, you're going to move it this way. So you're going to put the weight towards it more or back. You're gonna balance it. So see, I gotta put more weight this way. Yeah. Make sure your cueing lever, also set your anti-skating to 0. That will keep it, if it's set on something, it's going to want to pull it toward you while you're doing this. Set your anti-skating to 0. This is all of the procedure for getting your vertical tracking force right. That is the actual weight that the stylus is going to play the record at, or your cartridge is going to, you know, every cartridge is going to have a recommended tracking force. It'll be in the center of a range that are all acceptable, but I always go with the manufacturer recommendation. Some people like to go a little more, a little less, but that makes it, to me, I just go with what they say. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, less wear, optimum playback performance for that. So that's what I go with. Yeah, like I said, you can, the lighter and heavier ranges are acceptable. So, you know, that's always experimental. You know, as long as you don't go beyond what they say, you're still okay. I got that balanced. It's floating. It's not, that's what you want, okay? So when you get that, lock it back down, and this little inner ring with numbers on it and marks, set that to 0. There's a little line right in the center on the back, and line that up with 0 on that dial, because that dial will move. Even though I can hold that still, it won't move the counterweight. But when I turn that counterweight now, it will move that dial. So I'm going to turn it forward because I'm at 0. I don't want to take any weight away. I want to add the correct weight for this. So we'll turn it clockwise again, and these numbers are going to tell me what the weight is now that I have it at 0, because I have it calibrated to 0. So now whatever I set it to, that's what the weight and force will be at the end of this. So I'm at 1, I'm at 1.5, I'm right in the middle, 1.75. That's the recommended range for this cartridge, or that's the recommended force for this cartridge. I could go a little more, a little less. You could bump it a little if you think you want more or less. You're still right, pretty close right there, 1.8, 1.75. There could be a difference in sound, but you're still, you know, I mean, you've got that much to play with if you really want to. Or, you know, even a gram or a half a gram more, you know. But so now everything's aligned. Vertical tracking force is set to the recommended setting. Set your anti-skating to the same number. which is 1.75. So you set your anti-skating dial with numbers on it to the same as what the vertical tracking force is. I can demonstrate anti-skating with this blank record. This is a good album. Second Winter by Johnny Winter is a great album. It does have a blank side on it. Otherwise, it's very hard to find a blank vinyl record. Yeah, don't use one with like etchings on it or something. That might be bad for your stylus. But you can make it spin at 33, and then when you set it down on the blank vinyl, it's gonna, if it's adjusted right, it'll just stay stationary like it's skating on some ice or something. Now here, if I give it too much, it's gonna skate back this way. See? If I give it not enough, it skates right in the middle. You want it to just stay still. And right there, I can adjust it and fine tune it with this blank record. But yeah, that, if that ain't adjusted right at all, it might not be a real issue, but you could get some skipping. I mean, theoretically, it's riding on one side, on the inner side of the groove more than the outer side if there's no anti-skating, and it could cause some uneven wear on your vinyl grooves and your stylus, but it's not the most crucial thing. It just, if it's riding evenly on even pressure and it's not pulling it or pushing it outward, it's gonna sit in there and play and have the best sound and the best performance that way. Same goes for the alignment. Improper alignment is going to give you probably intergroup distortion, uneven wear on your stylus and your groove, and then, you know, possible skipping issues, all kinds of things. All these things are just going to give you the best playback that you can get. So there you go. I hope that was of help again, and any questions, I would be glad to answer them, and just make a comment. All right, thanks. Peace. Have a great one. Bye-bye.